Hey guys. All right, I promised I would prepare videos for you of the solutions to each of the test questions. You only had to answer one. So I'm going to do them all, and I think I'm going to put them in separate videos. I haven't completely decided. Let's see how this goes. I might do the first two or the first one and then the other two in a separate video. We'll see. Okay, so here goes. I'm going to share what I have. Oh no, that's not what I wanted to do. See, already I'm making mistakes. I want to share my iPad. Okay, and I'm off in the corner. Okay, let's do number one. Let's use the technique of highlighting as I read. So Peter Pepper, owner of PPP Plastics Incorporated, is pursuing a government contract to produce a specialty space-age plastic for NASA. The contract will last 4 years. So let's highlight that information. If they win the contract, PPP will have to invest $1.8 million in production equipment. So that is our initial cost, initial investment, capital spending, initial outlay. Those are all the terms used to identify this investment. On color. So green for investment, right? Blue for, did I do this wrong? It's blue for investment. Let's do that again. Blue for investment. You can do whatever color scheme you want. I just want to stick with the one I started with. So blue for investment, green for income, and I use purple for our tax shield information. But expects to be able to sell it to a competitor after the 4 years for $350,000. This new machinery will be placed in an asset class that depreciates over 7 years. So we need that. And that's going to go into that is tax shield information. The government contract calls for PPP to receive pre-tax revenues of $1 million per year for each of the 4 years of the project. It also just estimated that additional expenses of $200,000 per year for each of the 4 years will be incurred. Okay, so that's all income. And the pre-tax just means that you're going to have to do the 1 minus TC. If it was after tax, you wouldn't have to do that. For each of the 4 years, and maybe I highlight the whole thing. Continuing. If EPP lands the contract, raw material inventories related to plastic production will have to be increased immediately by 300,000 and will have to remain at the higher level until the project is complete, at which time they will then return to pre-project level. So this is regarding net working capital, which is part of investment. So net working capital. So inventories increased 300,000 and remains there. And then it will return to pre-project levels. Okay. PPP also estimates that landing the government contract will result in an increase in sales of their regular plastic products. So this should be interpreted as a side effect because they have ongoing production of, their original regular plastic products. So that's going to be another project of the firm. So we'll see that as a side effect. So that's a side effect that goes into the green income. And that's indefinite, so that's going to be a perpetuity. Assume PPP's corporate tax rate is 40% and the hurdle rate, so that's their required rate of return or cost of capital, is 13.5%. Compute the NPV of the government contract proposal and then interpret the NPV indicating whether PPP should pursue the government contract. Okay. So this is not hard, right? It's a short one. So I imagine you might have picked it. This also, the answer was also available on, actually, maybe not. I didn't make it available for you. Made it available for the other class, the intermediate class. I used the same question for their test. So they actually have this and could have studied from this. But I didn't ask them this on the exam, the test. So anyway, sorry, too much information. Let me continue here. All right, so what we're going to do is maybe I'm going to move this over here and do the problem on the side and then cut and paste it into one page that you can take a snapshot of. So we're going to start with income. So PV income is what I want. It's number one. And income is the green. So we are going to first deal with pre-tax revenue. So 1 million, I'm going to write it out with all the zeros, is going to be the revenues, right? But then we have the expenses every year. So because this is going to happen consecutively in consecutive years, I'm going to do the annuity and just going to write it so, expressing, communicating everything I'm including. So that's going to be an annuity at the discount rate of 13.5%, and it's going to be for 4 years. And the last step is after tax. So 1 minus 0.4. So that's one part, and that's going to be a positive because we're adding revenues minus expenses. What else do we have in the green? We also have in the green this amount, which is a side effect that is indefinite. So increase in sales of their regular plastic products of 100,000. This is supposed to be 100,000 here. Put an extra zero. And that this increase will last indefinitely. So I did mention that in class. Somebody asked. So let's do that. 100,000 indefinitely. What is that? 100,000 indefinitely is a perpetuity. And after tax. And oh, sorry, I put a plus, but isn't that a minus? Because that's a, oh no, it's an increase. Okay, so this is a side effect, but it's a positive side effect. Okay, you can have positive side effects. You have negative side effects. So this is a positive side effect because it is so there's a complementary good, right? Or well, it's not a competing good anyway. So they're selling both of this. They attract a reputation and they sell their other plastic products. That's good. They get a better reputation, or due to the marketing, they get exposure. So anyway, here we go. And now let's put that all together and put the result on the top. And I'm going to store that value. So let's see. I am going to calculate this with my calculator. Let me take a picture of what I'm doing. If you have any questions, if I make any mistakes, you guys can let me know as well. I think I made a mistake. All right, so I'm going to punch in here 1 million. minus 200,000, which you know is 800,000, but anyway, is 800,000. And then I'm going to put that in the payment button. And I'm going to go from left to right with 4 years at 13.5. And then PV is what I want. PMT was the 800,000 that I already put in. I'll put 0 in FE and compute PV. So that's that. 2 million. So I'm going to store that in 1. I'm going to make it a positive and store it in 1. And let's work on the second part, which is the perpetuity. That begins immediately as well, or within the year. So let's do that. 100,000 divided by 0.135 equals, oh, did I forget to do the times 0.6 probably? Yes, I did. Okay, let's roll back. So I have this result. I'm going to change the sign and I'm going to times by 0.6 because I neglected to do that. So that's going to be store 1. That's the first part. That's the net revenue, after tax revenue, net revenue. Let's do the second part again. 100,000 divided by 0.135 and times by 0.6 equals, store 2, and then let's add them together. Recall 1 plus recall 2, all stored in store 3. Okay, so I'll mark that down. So that's what I have, 1,857,484 and 25 ... cents. So that's in store 3. So I keep everything stored just in case I think I made a mistake and I want to check. All right, let's go back. Actually, hold on. Okay. So you can put notes here. Just so you can, when you check your answer, you have everything there. You don't have to recompute. So this one, I'm going to put it in red, was 1,413,039,80 ... and that was store 1. And this one was 444.44, store 2. And that's the whole thing. And then the final answer was them together, which was 1,857,484.25 ... store 3. All right. So we're done. Now let's do the second part, income, investment. And that is with all the blue stuff. And the blue stuff is going to be the initial investment. Oh, and I didn't even highlight this. This was the initial investment purchase, then the sale. Right, highlight that. And then over here we have net working capital. All right, so let's see. We're going to start with the top. At the top, we have a negative purchase, right? So this is going to be the cost of the purchasing of the equipment. Then we have let's just put a marker here. So net working capital, investment, cash flows, we're going to go there. And then the salvage effect. Okay. So we did the first part. That's all we got to do with that. But we have also this information about the sale, but we don't know how to treat the sale until we have the depreciation table and look for the book value and see the comparison. Remember that formula that I showed you how to compute the salvage effect. It's the sale plus the if you're selling it at a loss according to the book value, then you have tax savings because you claim the loss. If you're selling at with capital gains because you sold it for more than it's worth in the book value, then you have to pay taxes on that, right? So that's a profit. All right, so let's deal with the table. So there's two tables we're going to make. One is going to be the investment depreciation table. So we're going to have year here. Then the little d and the big D, and then the UCC. And I'm going to do my tax shields here too. Asked you guys to put that on your formula sheets. And we start in year one and we go for 4 years. So I did see some students struggle with how many years am I supposed to go? Just the years of the project. Okay, even though it can be depreciated up to 7 years, we're just going to depreciate for the years of the project. Okay. So let's get those numbers. Let me put a pause here and come back with the numbers. Okay, if you remember, these numbers are the same as in the UR case. Can you see that? No. I think I lost my connection here. Oh, you can't see my, so weird. Let me repost this. There you go. So these are the same numbers that we use in the UR case example. And we're going to use those to calculate D, the depreciation amount, the actual, what we're going to actually claim as an expense and reduce our taxable income, right? So D is equal to the original investment times that rate in each year. Okay, so we're going to go down the list. Fortunately, you're not here to correct me, but I will do my best not to make a mistake. So 1800000 times 0.143. Hopefully you can follow with my description here. So this is going to be, it should be 257,400. I'll move this over. And then again, 1800000 times 0.245 is equal to 441,000. And then the same amount times 0.175 is equal to 315, 315,000, and finally 1.25 times. It's easier to do this in Excel to see these laid out. So this is 225,000. All right, so now we got to get the book value. So we're going to take the original 1.8 million and repeatedly subtract in each of these here. So the first one, 4.8 million minus 257.4 or 257400 is 1.5 million almost. And then you subtract the next one, 441, and you get 101,600. And then you subtract the next one, 315,000, and you get 786,600. And then last one, 225,000, and that leaves 561,600. So this is your book value. So that's what's left of the asset. All right, so now that we have that, let's go right ahead and do the salvage effect while it's fresh in our minds. So we're going to indicate here the salvage was 350,000, but that happens to be much less than the book value. So we're going to save on taxes, right? We're going to be able to have tax savings because we're going to declare this loss, claim this loss. And the mathematical equation to capture all that is going to be like, right? So we put the salvage and then the tax effect. The booked value, 561,600 minus 350. And this is all going to happen at time 4, right? So we need to divide that. So we need the present value of that amount. So we need to divide this by 1.135 because this is a discounting, right? 1 plus I to the t. And we have to go back 4 years. And that leaves us with the net working capital income investment cash flow. So what I'm going to do is do that right below this. So what do I got to do? Maybe I don't want to, let's see, move this around a bit. This, I wanted to read that. Let's read that first and then I'll zoom out. Or is that zooming in? That's zooming in. Okay, inventories. Increased immediately by 300,000 and stays at that until the end. So you have to make your own net working capital table with only one row. This should be easy if you know what you're doing. So let's just write that down. Net working capital. And we have the years, right? So I write the years across. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And remember, immediately, it's going to be 300,000 that we need. And it stays at 300,000. Stays at 300,000. Wait. but then returns to pre-project levels at the end. So at the end, remember, these are marking the end of the period. So at the end of year 4, we need $0. And that's all we put. So, I mean, I could put a label here that this is inventory. Please get rid of files. And write inventory. And this is all that's going to represent our net working capital required. That's all we need according to the case. So we still have to complete the steps, right? For the incremental, getting the incremental cash flows and then converting them to investment cash flows. So net working capital changes. What would that look like? Gotta make this bigger. So net working capital changes are going to be initially a change of additional 300,000 for this project. Then no change, no change. So what I'm doing is this is at the end of the first year, but it's the same over here. So I don't need any more than 300,000. I just have to keep inventory at the value of $300,000 worth. And the same here, but then in the 4th year, I release the $300,000 worth of inventory back to the firm. Goes back there. All right, so then I'm going to net working capital changes and net working capital investment cash flows. So net working capital investment cash flows. Now, if you know what you're doing, you don't have to do the 3 steps. But if you don't know what you're doing, I recommend you still do all these steps. So this is going to be $300,000 investment. So it's a negative cash flows. I mean, these are just 0. And then this one turns to a positive. But because it happens in the 4th year, it's worth less than $300,000 from the perspective of today. So we need to put that number up there. Let's calculate it here and then fit it up in the equation here. Okay, so what is it? It's going to be the present value of net working capital investment cash flows is equal to negative 300,000. So that's immediate. And then later in year 4, 300,000, but discounted for 4 years. And let's get the value of that. Now you can put that into the net working capital investment, sorry, NPV. You can put it into NPV with 0. Let's do it together. I'm just going to take an image of that. Okay, so let's go to the calculator and do this together. So what will I do to get that amount? I'm going to put into the calculator for the CF keys. And then first I'm going to clear the workbook, right? So second clear work. And I'm going to put in here 300,000 negative, enter down. Then I'm going to put 0, enter down with a frequency of 3, enter down. And then the 300,000 enter down. And then NPV 13.5, enter down and compute. So that's my result. You have to rewind to see that if you didn't get it. I'm not going to repeat it. So let's put that in here and then we'll add it up and store that. So this is going to be, and yeah, it's a negative because it's an investment. So this ends up being negative 119,225,23 ... Let's Let's just store that. And I haven't stored anything else lately. Have I? Okay, let's just store that in 4. It's a negative, don't forget. So I'm going to copy it. Shrink it. We'll have to clean it up. Let me get all this and put it there. Does it fit? Barely fits. Too small. All right, I got to make this bigger. Maybe I'll clean this and try again. That went messy. So I'll clean that too. How's that? Okay, so we have store 4. So then I got to put this one together. I didn't even put in the TC. So let's put this in as 0.4. Okay, and let's get that and put it together. So it's going to be, I'm just going to put the number. Hold on. Okay, so I'm back. So that should be, so that amount, the salvage effect, present value of the salvage effect. So I can put present value around each of these just to remind you, these are all present values, right? And I had here too, present value of net working capital investment cash flows. There's no room. Okay, so those are all that. And I've stored this one in 5. Okay, so let's put it together and store the result in 6. So actually, let me try that again. All right, so that's going to be 1800, so 1.8 million negative plus or minus or plus, I guess, because it's a negative, plus recall 4 and then plus recall 5, which is a positive, equals, so investment is a negative. That's okay, 1.6. So even though we bought the equipment for 1.8, we get some money back. So even if we bought the equipment for 1.8 and then we also had the inventory that we had to invest in, we still, we got a little bit less than that. We spent a little less than that because of the tax effect of the salvage. On the salvage itself. Okay, so then we're going to store that, I said, into 6, and it's a negative. Okay, let's go back. So, oops, let me get the number. Okay, so let's put that up here. What did I do? I did a red one. Okay, so it's going to be 6. Income was storage 3. So investment is going to be negative 1657318.75. And you know, I've stored all the decimal places, so if you don't do that, you might be off. If you're a little bit off, I don't care too much, but do your best to do what I do. So this is, oops, in red, store 6. Okay, store 6. All right, last part. Last part is just get the tax shields, present value of that, and then we're just going to add 3, 6, and whatever that is. So let's do the tax shields that are here. So the tax shield, remember, is TC times D. So we're going to take each of these and times by 0.4. That's the tax savings. Okay, so $257,400 times 0.4. Let me write that down. This is 0.4 times D, right? Let me do that again. 257,400 times 0.4 is 102,960. The next one, 441,000, 441,000 times 0.4 is 176,400, and 315,000 times 0.4 is 126, and 225,000 times 0.4 is 90,000. So you got to put those into the cash flow keys and discount them to get part 3. So let me write that down here. Just going to put the numbers down and then the discount rates. Remembering the first one is in 1 year, so this has to be discounted. You can put a 0 there not to forget, you know, how to do this in your calculator. All right, so let's put those numbers into the CF keys and store 7. Okay, CF, second clear work. Let's put these numbers in. 0, enter down. First cash flow 102,960, enter down. Just a frequency of 1, down. And then 176,400, enter down, down. and then 126,000, enter down, down, and 90,000, enter down, down, and then NPV, put 13.5%. Remember, it has to go in as a percent, enter down, compute, and that is the answer. So you're saving $368,000. So store 7. So I'm going to pause and come back. I'm going to clean things up on my answer page. Okay, so I think I've cleaned it all up, and I'm going to add now 3, 2, sorry, recall 3 plus recall 6 plus recall, just making sure, 7. Sound good? What does it look like? It's close, right? So it's 1.8 income, but then this 1.6 investment. So we're already over, and then this is just a bonus. So its NPV is positive, but let's get the final number. So, so recall 3 plus recall 6 plus recall 7. It's already a positive. So 568,219. I'm just going to check. I found the result is actually in your documents. I think I'm going to double check. I found it here. Maybe, is it visible to you? Let me make sure it's visible to you. It's visible to you. It's called Capital Budgeting Additional Problem Solution to Problem 1. So these problems were given to you. No. Again, this is the other class. Let me double check. Oh, dear. I hid them from you, I think. So nice, hey? Let's see. Hmm. Yeah, I hid them from you. Okay, so you don't have these. So I'll post this solution up. We're just comparing my answer. All right, so that's the answer. So I am going to stop it here, and because this was so long, I am going to continue with the other 2 problems in separate videos. Okay, see you then.